So there are people who make choices that lead to homelessness, and there are people who choose to stay in homelessness, but there are people who do choose the illusion of freedom that comes with living on the streets. Hello, and welcome to For the Need Foundation's Root Cause podcast, where we get at the root cause of homelessness. Today, our topic is homelessness a choice? So I am Allie Mayernick, director of For the Need Foundation, and I'm here joined by co-founder, my mom, Viviana Spaccarelli. We had Mayan on our first show, and so it is only fitting, of course, to bring on our co-founder, Viviana. And today she brings a lot of experience as she comes to all our events and works directly with a lot of the moms and dads and parents and guardians that we work with, and sees firsthand what they're going through, why they're going through it, and what we're doing about that. So let's get into it. So is homelessness a choice? Why don't we start with you? What do you think?
Well, it depends. I think for children, it's definitely not a choice because they grew up in it or born in it, or the circumstances happen that they ended up in it because of their parents or their family situation. So, and I don't know really if it's a choice for the adults. Sometimes it could be, but not necessarily. Like sometimes the adults are in a circumstance where they have to be homeless temporarily if they don't have a home because different situations. Maybe they lost a job, or maybe they're suffering from domestic violence or domestic abuse or things like that. But the good thing is here in the United States, there's always a possibility, even though there's a shortage. But I believe there's usually a possibility for them to stay somewhere, to live somewhere for the most part. But I'm not 100% on that. So
Yeah, it's really hard because you hear from some places, oh, it's not a problem with housing. You hear from some places it is a problem with housing. But ultimately, there is always a root cause. Otherwise, 100% of people would be homeless, right?
Right.
So there is a root cause to why certain people are experiencing that versus some other people who aren't experiencing homelessness. And whether or not they're choosing to be in a state of instability like that, people don't wake up and think, I want to live on the streets or I want to live in my car instead of an apartment. I mean, there are some people who do choose that life, living in like a van, or maybe they like that there's no rules to that kind of life. I've actually met and heard of people that are of that mindset where it's sometimes they, in their heart and head, it feels easier to not have rules. But that's not a lot of the people. It's impossible to generalize everybody. And like you said, it so depends. First of all, for the kids, it's not their fault that
Right.
they're growing up in homelessness. It's not their choice to do that. They don't know anything different, at
Right.
least at the beginning. Yeah, the statistics say that there's a good portion, a large portion of people experiencing homelessness who also have mental illness or a physical illness. And that is partly why they ended up in the homelessness situation. There's also family conflicts. There's also domestic violence. A lot of, especially women and children who are fleeing domestic violence. And there's actually probably about 50% of women, that's what they say, who are experiencing homelessness who have fled from domestic violence. Of course, there's different levels to that. And that can be a really scary thing to think. You're choosing between staying with someone dangerous or going and being homeless or experiencing that.
Right.
That's a really, really tough decision. And we see a lot of moms that overcome and escape their
Right.
situation. Yeah. But it's hard when you're experiencing that difficulty of instability, then everything snowballs. Like if you don't have, like, let's say someone has a physical health issue and then they lose their job, and then because they lose their job, they can't pay their phone bill. And
Right.
then because they can't pay their phone bill, they can't tell their landlord they're going to be late on the rent or whatever it is, and then they pay their rent late, or they don't pay their rent at all, and then they possibly get evicted, and it just snowballs and spirals, all from just losing a job and having a health issue. So when it comes to the root cause, there's people like that who are experiencing their situation of hardship largely due to circumstance. And some people have a stronger social net where they have like if that happened to me, I would have my parents, I would have my church family and my husband to support me.
Right.
But so many people, and we see this every time, that are going through these hardships, they don't have that safety net of a person who is their safe place. They don't have that safe place that they can come home to, and that's really, really hard. What do you see, like, with that?
Yeah, I agree with you. Definitely. That could be really hard for people to choose to leave a dangerous situation. And a lot of people, that's all they know. They believe maybe that they can't get out of that situation or that they will end up in the street. And so they're afraid that that person that's the danger person for them, that they're going to hurt them if they leave them. So it could be a scary situation. And that's why a lot of women and children are homeless. Or deal with that. But I also believe that there is some people, I don't know the percentage, that choose to do drugs, unfortunately, or that they do have
Yeah.
mental illness. And so they end up in the streets living on their car or in the streets and end up homeless, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
So, and then I think there is some people that try to go to a shelter, like you were mentioning earlier, or a place to live, but they don't want to abide by the rules, so they end up in their car. They prefer to go to their car, or if they don't have a car, on the street, live in the street in a tent or something like that. Um, it is also unfortunate the people that do drugs. I mean, I don't know all the situations of people why they do drugs. I'm assuming some people are, they just maybe ended up that way because they started doing drugs young, or maybe they grew up in a
Or their
family.
parents were doing
Yeah,
that.
or
Yeah.
maybe the parents were alcoholic or introduced the drugs to the children. Who knows? Like those things could have led them to do drugs. So we don't know the past from their lives, but or there's just people that like doing drugs since they were younger for recreational purposes, and then they got addicted to it, and then they ended up in the streets, which is that's really unfortunate, and they have a hard time giving it up, and so that could happen too.
Yeah, we have a couple
So
kids in our program that they were born addicted to drugs. And the doctor and the parent or guardian, their guardian is their grandma. She has to make a choice, like, are we going to risk damaging their health and keep them off the drugs and help have them set up for a better life, or are the doctors going to like appease that somehow? I don't know the medical background on how that exactly works, but these kids, they're successfully weaned off. They're successfully not on drugs at all, even though they were born from a system that had drugs in it. They were able to, like, their mother's system had drugs in it. They were able to become off of that. But now those kids, they're more hyperactive. They have a harder time in school. There's other issues that come from that. And so they're already starting the race of life a little bit behind because of that.
right.
So it's not their choice. It's not their choice. They're in that situation that they were experiencing hardship, and now that they are living with their grandma as opposed to either of their parents. There's another family in our program where we don't know the dad. The kids have at least 3 different last names because there's been multiple different dads in their home. And there's 12 of them living in one home. And you often don't see Simi Valley as a place where that kind of thing happens, but it does. There's 12 of them living in one home, stacked on top of each other, living in the living room space, sharing all of them in one or two bedrooms. It's very tight. And so that's considered homeless.
Right.
by the way the housing department defines it, because they're overcrowded and they're not in a place suitable where people should be living at that capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So we see that, and the mom in that situation does have a drug problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so crucial at For the Need. We work with the kids because there's so much hope for them.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know exactly the mom's heart or intention, if she's trying to get off the drugs or not. We don't even get into that at all, because
Mm-hmm.
there's other great resources that do. And we focus on just the root, those kids, and helping to show them a better life, show them a different life,
Right.
and that they can choose a different future for themselves.
For sure.
So when it comes to like if homelessness is a choice, you have to look at the different categories of homelessness. There's individuals and then there's families.
Mm-hmm.
And on our focus, it's the family. And what we see is that it depends. Sometimes we'll see a mom, like I mentioned, who is doing drugs,
Mm-hmm.
and a father who's not in the picture. And so what you have is the oldest sibling ends up caring for the younger siblings and
Right.
filling in that mother role. And we see that quite a bit, circumstances that are similar to that, or where a parent has gotten arrested. And again, the kids were born into that. That's all they've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've also seen circumstances where the mom or the dad or whichever guardian is still in the home is doing their absolute best, everything they can for that kid. But their partner, their previous partner, was dangerous to both the mom and to the kids. And they had to flee that situation no matter the cost, even though the cost of that was their home and their well-being and their finances. They had to turn that all behind, leave that all behind,
Mm-hmm.
and grab what they could and leave with nothing. And now living in family housing, transitional housing, to escape that life. And so those moms or parents are finding the best they can for their kid, but that kid still, all they've known is that parent who was doing harm, and now the parent who is caring for them. And
Right.
so how do you avoid that kind of a relationship, like when you're a kid growing up and that's all your example is? Like how do you make a different choice from that? Like, how did you make a different choice? I mean, you've been with dad almost 30 years.
Yeah, well, I didn't grow up homeless for sure, but I think that it helps to have a good foundation in your life, with God in your life.
Mm.
For me, it helped me to go to church, be a part of a church, be a Christian, personally, and just have a community, of friends, of people that you can get support from or talk to if you have an issue
Yeah.
or problem in your life. Even if you grew up in a bad environment, I think it's important to have a good community. Or even if you don't go to church, but just like have a good community that has good morals, people who are gonna do the right thing and help you, through life.
Hmm.
So that's what helped me, I believe, having God in my life, going to church, and teaching our children about God and church, and having a community of good friends. Now, no one's perfect, of course. People aren't perfect, and there's gonna be people even in church that can make mistakes, or say
Mhm.
the wrong thing or act the wrong way or whatever. But for the most part, if you have a village, your family or friends, even if you don't have family, just like people that you surround yourself with, that choose the right people that are going to surround you, and not the people that are going to be doing drugs or alcohol or
Mm.
drinking and partying all the time. Just try to find those friends and those people that are good influences in your life.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. It's not necessarily your family. You can have a great family or you can have a family that is harmful. However, you can still choose your community beyond your
Mm-hmm.
family. You can't choose
Mm-hmm.
your family. You
Right.
can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends. You can
Right.
choose your village. You can choose your community.
Yes.
Whether you find it in church or wherever, at For the Need, we hope the families find that
Yes.
community with
For sure.
us and
Yes.
with their mentors
Mm-hmm.
and with each other who are on that path to trying to provide a better life. So that's That's amazing that you said that. That you can find your community even in your friends, in your village, in
Mm-hmm.
your church, or your nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
They we all can we all can find that community to support us. And yeah, it is important to speak up, to overcome that fear of, what's going to happen, what's he going to say, if I do try to get help. But we've seen those moms who do take that risk, and
Mm-hmm.
it does end up being much better because they're able to find people who love them and find
Mm-hmm.
that community who cares about them, no matter what that dangerous person is saying to them.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
I also think it's that's why part of what we started for the need is to help children also, like, and seek professional help through counseling for
Hmm.
people who need it. And there's so many resources that are free to people here in the United States and California, where people can get free counseling, free professional help. And even if the kids need help, they can ask a teacher, and the teacher will get them help and help them as well, I think, for the most part, and or get some resource to help them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's why I
schools
love for
have.
the need, and that
Mm.
we can do a little bit of a good impact on children. And we've already seen it through kids that have graduated our program, that are working and getting a driver's license and driving. And so just planting seeds, I think, helps little by little children that deal with homelessness. So
Absolutely. Planting seeds is so huge. And you might
yeah,
not always see the tree grow from those seeds,
right,
but they are growing.
yeah,
You know they are. We see it with the kids who do continue to keep coming back and that are now serving the other kids and being inspired and inspiring the others. So overall, homelessness being a choice. Some people, individuals choose possibly drugs or possibly um they'll turn to making a worse choice when circumstances come their way. So, like, if someone loses their job, some people might turn to their village and some people might turn to possibly stealing or something else. Or
mm-hmm.
so there are people who make choices that lead to homelessness, and there are people who choose to stay in homelessness. There was a there was a really in-depth video from a nonprofit that works with Skid Row that I got to watch, and it shared about this woman who lives right near the shelter. She lives right in front of it in her tent, and they offer her services every day. She's able to get lunch. They offer for her to stay inside, and she declines
Mm-hmm.
every time. And they say, "Well, if you ever want to come, you are always welcome." And I don't know exactly what's going on in her head, why she declines, but there are people who do choose the 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 illusion of freedom that comes with living on the streets. But it is an illusion. They're not actually free. They're a chain to their lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
and we just hope for a better life for those who are choosing better, and especially for those kids who didn't choose it and that grow up in it. So for individuals, it's definitely a mix. There's people who've fallen on hardship. But when it comes to being chronically homeless, I do believe there are enough resources
Mm-hmm.
and counseling and help and nonprofits and villages and churches out there that will take people under their wing if they're experiencing temporary homelessness.
Right,
Um, if you've built a village and if you're building a village, there will be someone who's able to temporarily help you. But eventually
true,
you have to get back on your feet. You've got to take the entry level job at Chipotle or McDonald's or Starbucks that comes with healthcare and just
right,
do that and work hard. And we had someone on last episode who shared about her experience, Rita, who worked in entry level jobs, even though she came from having no money and nothing and not a lot of support from her parents, even though they did the best they could.
mm-hmm.
And she was able to achieve financial freedom at 39. So it's very possible, even with starting with entry level positions
Yeah,
and not taking debt, spending a lot less than you make.
right.
So I do believe people can do that.
Yes,
But
for sure.
especially those kids don't necessarily know that they can do that until someone is positively encouraging them and influencing that they can. So,
True. Very true.
very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess in summary, whether homelessness is a choice or not, for some people it is. For some people it is. And for some people, they're making choices. Some people make choices that lead to homelessness. Some people are choosing to stay in homelessness. But for the kids and for those who's not their choice, there's so much hope for them.
Yes.
They can overcome those odds and they can overcome those circumstances, whether it's in California temporarily through semi permanent transitional housing to eventually getting on your feet in another place. There is hope for them. So, whether homelessness is a choice or not, you've heard it here that for some people it is a choice, especially if they're making choices that lead to that homelessness. However, for the kids and for so many others, it is not their choice, and they're truly doing everything they can to escape that situation and overcome those odds. And so, thank you everyone for watching Root Cause from For the Need Foundation. This has been Allie and Viviana, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.